Imagine waking up tomorrow with the ability to read minds, move objects with your thoughts, and solve complex mathematical equations in seconds. Sounds like a superpower, right? Well, according to a popular myth, we all have this potential locked away in our brains. But what if I told you that this idea is about as scientific as believing in magic beans? Welcome to the world of neuroscience, where we're about to debunk one of the most persistent myths about the human brain, the idea that we only use 10% of our brain capacity. Spoiler alert, we use way more than that. In fact, we use 100% of our brain, just not all at once. It's like a 24/7 dance party in your head, and every neuron is invited. Let's start with the basics. Your brain is a powerhouse of activity, constantly working even when you're sleeping. It's responsible for everything from keeping your heart beating to helping you remember where you left your keys. And it does all this while consuming about 20% of your body's energy. That's a lot of work for an organ that supposedly only uses 10% of its capacity. But where did this myth come from? Well, it's been around for over a century, popularized by self-help gurus and sci-fi writers. Even Albert Einstein supposedly said, "We only use 10% of our brains." But here's the thing. There's no evidence he ever said that. Sorry, Al, we love you, but we're going to have to fact-check you on this one. Now, let's dive into what really happens in our brains. Your brain has about 86 billion neurons, and they're all important. Different parts of your brain are responsible for different functions. For example, the frontal lobe handles reasoning and problem-solving, while the occipital lobe processes visual information. These areas are always active, just to varying degrees depending on what you're doing. Think of your brain like a symphony orchestra. Not every instrument plays at full volume all the time, but they're all necessary for the performance. If we really only use 10% of our brains, we'd be in big trouble. Imagine if 90% of the orchestra just decided to take a nap during the concert. But here's where it gets really interesting. While we use all of our brain, we don't always use it to its full potential. That's where the idea of brain training comes in. Just like you can exercise your muscles to get stronger, you can challenge your brain to improve its performance. Learning a new language, for instance, can actually increase the density of gray matter in your brain. That's right, your brain can physically change and grow. It's like giving your brain a six-pack. And who doesn't want a buff brain? Now, you might be wondering, if we already use 100% of our brain, why can't we do amazing things like in the movies? Well, our brains are already doing amazing things. Every second, your brain is processing an enormous amount of information from your senses, controlling your body functions, storing and retrieving memories, and much more. It's like having a supercomputer between your ears. But let's indulge in a little thought experiment. What if we could somehow overclock our brains? Would we gain superpowers? Probably not, in the way you're thinking. Our brains have evolved over millions of years to function optimally for our survival and reproduction. Suddenly cranking up the dial might not have the effects you'd expect. For example, perfect memory might seem great, but imagine remembering every embarrassing moment in vivid detail, or never being able to forget traumatic experiences. Suddenly, it doesn't sound so super, does it? Or consider enhanced sensory perception. It might be cool to have super hearing, but do you really want to hear every conversation in a 5-mile radius? You'd never get any peace and quiet. Sometimes, less is more. That's not to say we can't enhance our cognitive abilities. We absolutely can, and we do it all the time. Every time you learn something new, solve a problem, or have a creative idea, you're pushing your brain to new heights. It's not about unlocking some dormant 90% of your brain, it's about making the most of what you already have. So, how can you optimize your brain function? Well, it's not as exciting as taking a magic pill, but it's much more effective. Regular exercise, a healthy diet, good sleep habits, and challenging your mind with new experiences and learning can all contribute to better brain health and function. Meditation and mindfulness practices have also been shown to have positive effects on brain function. They can help improve focus, reduce stress, and even increase gray matter in certain areas of the brain. It's like giving your brain a spa day. And let's not forget about the power of social interaction. Engaging with others, having stimulating conversations, and maintaining strong social connections can all contribute to better cognitive function. Your brain loves a good chat. Now, while we may not be able to unlock hidden superpowers, neuroscience is making some pretty incredible advances. Brain-computer interfaces are allowing people with paralysis to control robotic limbs with their thoughts. Deep brain stimulation is helping to treat conditions like Parkinson's disease and depression. And researchers are constantly discovering new things about how our brains work and adapt. So, the next time someone tells you that we only use 10% of our brains, you can confidently tell them that's 100% wrong. Your brain is always working, always adapting, and always amazing. It's not about unlocking hidden potential. It's about appreciating and optimizing the incredible organ you already have. Remember, you're not using 10% of a supercomputer. You're using 100% of the most complex known structure in the universe. And that's pretty super all by itself. So go ahead, give your brain a high five. It deserves it. In the end, the real superpower isn't using 100% of your brain. It's understanding and appreciating the incredible 100% you're already using. Now that's something to wrap your mind around.